cop finds 3-year-old girl sleeping in park alone. Breaks down when he learns the heartbreaking truth. Officer Michael Davies was a veteran of the city police force, his badge tarnished not by misconduct, but by the relentless grime of urban decay and the countless tragedies he'd witnessed. Years spent patrolling the city's underbelly had hardened him, etching lines of weariness around his eyes and a permanent furrow in his brow. He'd seen the darkest corners of human nature, the despair that lurked in the shadows, the violence that erupted in the dead of night. He'd consoled grieving families, chased down hardened criminals, and felt the cold grip of fear in the face of danger. Yet, beneath the gruff exterior, the cynical shell he'd built as a shield against the constant barrage of human suffering, Officer Davies harbored a deep well of compassion. It was a flicker of light in the darkness, a stubborn ember refusing to be extinguished by the harsh realities of his job. He carried the weight of the city's sorrows on his broad shoulders, but he also carried a quiet hope, a belief in the inherent goodness that still flickered in the hearts of even the most lost and broken souls. His beat was the city's downtown district, a labyrinth of dimly lit alleys, graffiti-scarred walls, and abandoned buildings that whispered tales of forgotten dreams and shattered lives. He knew the rhythm of the streets, the ebb and flow of human misery, the hidden corners where society's most vulnerable sought refuge. He knew the homeless by name, their stories etched in the lines of their weathered faces, their hopes and dreams buried beneath layers of hardship and despair. He knew the struggling families, the single mothers juggling multiple jobs to make ends meet, the children growing up too fast in the shadow of poverty and neglect. He was a familiar face in the community, a symbol of both authority and reluctant empathy. He patrolled the streets with a weary determination, his presence a reminder of order in a world that often felt chaotic and unjust. He was the one they called when things went wrong, the one who showed up when hope seemed lost, the one who offered a gruff word of comfort or a stern warning, depending on the situation. One particular park, nestled amidst the urban decay like a forgotten oasis, was a frequent stop on his nightly rounds. It was a haven for the homeless, a place where they could find temporary respite from the harsh realities of life on the streets. Its ancient oak trees offered shade from the summer sun and shelter from the winter rain, their gnarled branches reaching towards the sky like supplicating arms. The park's benches, worn smooth by countless weary bodies, provided a place to rest aching limbs and troubled minds. Officer Davies knew the regulars, the ones who sought shelter under the park's protective canopy, their faces etched with the stories of their struggles. He knew the old man who mumbled to himself about lost loves and forgotten dreams, the young woman who clutched her baby close, her eyes filled with a desperate hope, the teenage boy who sought escape from a broken home in the fleeting camaraderie of the streets. He would often offer a kind word, a warm blanket, or a hot cup of coffee, small gestures that belied his gruff exterior. He would listen to their stories, their voices filled with pain and longing, their words painting a picture of a world he knew all too well. He would offer what little help he could, a referral to a shelter, a few dollars for a meal, a moment of human connection in a world that often felt cold and isolating. One bitterly cold November night, as Officer Davies patrolled the park, his flashlight beam cutting through the darkness like a beacon, he caught a glimpse of something unexpected. Underneath a sprawling oak tree, nestled amongst a pile of leaves and blankets, lay a small child, fast asleep. A little girl, no more than 3 years old, her face pale and innocent, her tiny body curled up against the cold, her breath misting in the frosty air. The sight struck a chord within him, a wave of protectiveness washing over him, a primal urge to shield this innocent creature from the harsh realities of the world. Officer Davies knelt beside the sleeping child, his heart pounding in his chest, a mixture of concern and anger churning in his gut. He gently touched her shoulder, his calloused hand surprisingly gentle against her delicate skin. "Little one," he whispered, his voice rough but kind, "wake up. You can't sleep here. It's not safe." The girl stirred, her eyes fluttering open, revealing pools of deep brown, filled with a mixture of fear and confusion. She looked up at Officer Davies, her small face framed by a tangle of dark curls, her lips trembling slightly. "Mama," she whispered, her voice barely audible, a tiny bird lost in the vastness of the night. "Where's your mama, sweetheart?" Officer Davies asked, his voice filled with concern, his gruff exterior melting away in the face of her vulnerability. The girl shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes, threatening to spill over onto her pale cheeks. "Mama gone," she mumbled, her voice choked with sobs, her tiny body shaking with the cold and fear. Officer Davies felt a surge of anger and sadness, a wave of protectiveness that threatened to overwhelm him. How could anyone abandon a child like this, leaving her to fend for herself in the cold, harsh streets? He gently picked her up, her tiny body light in his arms, her warmth a stark contrast to the biting cold of the night. "It's okay, sweetheart," he soothed, his voice a low rumble that vibrated through her small frame. "I'm here now. I'll take care of you." He carried her to his patrol car, the warmth of the vehicle a welcome relief from the biting wind. He wrapped her in his thick jacket, the scent of leather and duty mingling with the sweet innocence of her childish scent. He radioed in, his voice tight with emotion, reporting the situation and requesting assistance. He felt a surge of responsibility for this little girl, a paternal instinct he had never experienced before, a fierce determination to protect her from the harsh realities of the world. Within minutes, a social worker arrived, her face etched with the weariness of someone who had seen too much suffering. Officer Davies reluctantly handed over the little girl, his heart heavy with worry, his mind filled with questions. He watched as the social worker drove away, the little girl's face pressed against the window, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and curiosity. He learned that the girl's name was Lily. She had been found abandoned in the park, with no identification or any clues about her family. She was taken to a temporary shelter, a safe haven for lost and forgotten children, a place where she would be cared for, but also a place that felt cold and impersonal compared to the warmth of his arms. Officer Davies couldn't shake the image of Lily's tear-stained face, her tiny body shivering in the cold, her voice whispering, "Mama?" with a heartbreaking mixture of hope and despair. He felt a deep sense of responsibility for her, a paternal instinct that had been dormant within him, awakened by her vulnerability. He vowed to find her family, to reunite her with the people who were supposed to love and protect her, to ensure that she would never again have to face the cold, harsh reality of the streets alone. The following day, Officer Davies visited Lily at the shelter. He brought her a teddy bear, a small token of comfort, its soft fur a stark contrast to the harshness of her reality. He sat with her in the brightly colored playroom, the sounds of children's laughter echoing around them, a stark contrast to the silence of the park where he had found her. He played games with her, his large hands clumsily manipulating the tiny pieces, his gruff voice attempting to mimic the sounds of animals and cartoon characters. He read her stories, his voice stumbling over the unfamiliar words, his face softening as he watched her eyes widen with wonder and delight. He also began investigating Lily's case, determined to find her family, to unravel the mystery of her abandonment. He checked missing persons reports, his eyes scanning the pages filled with faces of the lost and forgotten, hoping to find a match for Lily's sweet face. He interviewed neighbors in the area where she was found, their voices a mixture of concern and indifference, their words painting a picture of a community struggling with poverty and neglect. He followed every lead, no matter how small, his determination fueled by a growing sense of responsibility for Lily's well-being. Days turned into weeks, the leaves on the trees turning from vibrant hues of gold and red to brittle brown, falling to the ground like forgotten dreams. Officer Davies's investigation yielded no results, the trail growing colder with each passing day. Lily remained at the shelter, her future uncertain, her past a mystery. Officer Davies visited her regularly, his visits a beacon of stability in her chaotic world, his presence a source of comfort and reassurance. He brought her small gifts, read her stories, and played games with her, his gruff exterior melting away in her presence. One evening, as Officer Davies was leaving the shelter, the fluorescent lights casting long shadows down the sterile hallways, one of the social workers approached him, her face etched with a mixture of concern and hesitant hope. "Officer Davies," she said, her voice soft. "I think I might have something about Lily's case." She handed him a file, a thin folder containing a few sheets of paper, the words and images within holding the potential to change Lily's life. "We received a call this afternoon," she explained, her voice laced with a cautious optimism, "from a woman claiming to be Lily's aunt. She said she hadn't seen Lily or her mother in months, but she saw a news report about Lily being found in the park and recognized her." Officer Davies's heart leaped with hope, a flicker of light in the darkness that had surrounded Lily's case. Could this be the break he had been waiting for? The answer to the mystery that had haunted him for weeks? He eagerly opened the file, his eyes scanning the documents, his mind racing with anticipation. A wave of shock and disbelief washed over him as he read the contents, the words blurring before his eyes, the information hitting him with the force of a physical blow. The file contained information about Lily's mother, Sarah. She was a single mother, her face etched with the weariness of someone who had carried the weight of the world on her slender shoulders. She was struggling with poverty, her life a constant battle against unpaid bills, eviction notices, and empty cupboards. She was battling addiction, her body and mind ravaged by the grip of a substance that promised escape but delivered only despair. She had been evicted from her apartment a few months ago, the walls that had once offered shelter and security crumbling around her, leaving her and Lily to navigate the harsh realities of the streets. But the report also revealed a heartbreaking detail, a cruel twist of fate that made Officer Davies's blood run cold. Sarah had been diagnosed with terminal cancer. The disease had ravaged her body, leaving her weak and frail, her once vibrant spirit dimmed by the shadow of death. She had been given only a few months to live, her time slipping away like sand through her fingers. Officer Davies felt a surge of anger and sadness, a wave of injustice that made his fists clench. He couldn't believe that Sarah had been forced to endure such hardship, to face her illness alone while caring for a young child. He imagined her desperation, the impossible choices she had to make, the fear that gnawed at her as she contemplated leaving her daughter alone in the world. He felt a deep sense of injustice, a burning desire to help, to offer some comfort and support in the face of such overwhelming odds. He decided to track down Sarah, to find her and offer her whatever help he could. He visited the address listed in the file, a rundown apartment building in one of the city's poorest neighborhoods. The building stood as a monument to neglect, its paint peeling, its windows boarded up, its entrance reeking of stale cigarette smoke and despair. He knocked on the door, his heart pounding in his chest, a mixture of apprehension and determination fueling his every step. A frail woman opened the door, her face pale and drawn, her eyes filled with a weariness that spoke volumes about the battles she had fought. Officer Davies recognized her from the photo in the file, the same haunted eyes, the same weary smile. It was Sarah. "Sarah?" he asked gently, his voice a stark contrast to the harshness of her surroundings. She nodded, her voice weak, a mere whisper in the silence of the hallway. "Yes? I'm Officer Davies," he said, his voice carrying a note of authority, but also a hint of compassion. "I found Lily in the park a few weeks ago." Sarah's eyes widened in alarm, a flicker of fear momentarily eclipsing the weariness. "Lily? Is she okay?" "She's safe," Officer Davies assured her, his voice firm and reassuring. "She's at a shelter." Sarah's shoulders slumped in relief, the tension momentarily leaving her body. "Thank God," she whispered, her voice filled with gratitude. Officer Davies stepped into the apartment, his eyes taking in the meager surroundings. The apartment was sparsely furnished, a worn couch, a rickety table, a bare mattress on the floor. The air was thick with the smell of sickness and despair, a testament to the battles fought within those walls. He sat down with Sarah, gently explaining the situation, his words carefully chosen to convey both concern and respect. He learned that Sarah had been struggling to care for Lily while battling her illness, her body failing her, her spirit waning. She had been forced to make impossible choices, to prioritize her daughter's safety over her own comfort, to leave her in the park, hoping that someone would find her and offer her the care she could no longer provide. Officer Davies listened patiently, his heart aching for Sarah and her daughter, his mind racing with ways to help. He saw the love in Sarah's eyes as she spoke of Lily, the fierce determination to protect her daughter, even in the face of her own mortality. He knew he had to do something to help, to ease their burden, to offer them some semblance of hope in the face of despair. News of Lily's situation spread like wildfire through the police station. The story of the abandoned child and the terminally ill mother touching the hearts of even the most hardened officers. Officer Davies's colleagues, initially surprised by his intense involvement in the case, were moved by his compassion and determination to help. They saw a different side of him, the gruff exterior melting away to reveal the caring heart beneath. They rallied around him, offering their support and resources, their camaraderie a source of strength in the face of such overwhelming odds. Some officers donated clothes and toys for Lily, their generosity bringing a touch of warmth and joy to the sterile environment of the shelter. Others contributed to a fund to help Sarah with her medical expenses, their contributions a testament to their shared humanity. One officer, a young woman named Maria Rodriguez, took a particular interest in Lily's case. She had a young daughter of her own, her heart aching for the little girl who had been robbed of her innocence. She couldn't imagine the pain and fear that Lily and Sarah must be going through, the desperation of a mother forced to abandon her child, the terror of a child left alone in the world. She volunteered to visit Lily at the shelter, her presence a welcome distraction from the monotony of shelter life. She brought her books and games, her laughter filling the room, her warmth chasing away the shadows of fear and loneliness. She spent hours with Lily, reading stories, playing games, and braiding her hair, creating a bond of friendship and trust. She also offered to help Sarah with errands and chores, her kindness offering Sarah a much-needed respite from her daily struggles. She would pick up groceries, do laundry, and clean the apartment, her presence a source of comfort and support for the weary mother. Maria's involvement in the case brought a new dimension to Officer Davies's efforts. He found himself confiding in her, sharing his frustrations and hopes for Lily and Sarah, his voice losing its gruffness in her presence. He appreciated her empathy and support, her unwavering belief in the power of human kindness, her ability to see the good in even the most difficult situations. Their shared concern for Lily and Sarah forged a bond between them, a friendship born out of compassion and a shared desire to make a difference. They would discuss the case late into the night, their voices hushed, their faces illuminated by the dim light of the police station. They would brainstorm ideas, share their concerns, and offer each other support, their camaraderie a source of strength in the face of adversity. As Officer Davies spent more time with Sarah, visiting her in her rundown apartment, bringing her groceries and updates on Lily, he developed a deep respect for her resilience and her unwavering love for her daughter. He saw the pain in her eyes, the fear of leaving Lily alone in the world, the desperation of a mother facing her own mortality. But he also saw the strength in her spirit, the fierce determination to fight for her daughter, to make the most of the time they had left. He witnessed the bond between mother and daughter, the unconditional love that transcended their difficult circumstances. He watched as Sarah read stories to Lily during his visits, her voice weak but filled with tenderness, her eyes shining with love. He saw the way Lily's face lit up when her mother smiled, the way she clung to her mother's hand for comfort, the way their laughter filled the small apartment with a warmth that defied the cold reality of their situation. Officer Davies's interactions with Sarah and Lily began to chip away at his cynicism, reawakening the compassion he had buried deep within. He found himself looking forward to his visits, to the moments of shared laughter and quiet understanding, to the feeling of making a difference in their lives. He found himself drawn to Sarah, her strength and vulnerability resonating with him, her spirit a beacon in the darkness. He admired her determination to fight for her daughter, her refusal to give up even in the face of overwhelming odds. Their relationship evolved from one of officer and citizen to one of mutual respect and shared concern. They found solace in each other's company, their conversations offering a brief respite from the harsh realities of their lives. They talked about their hopes and fears, their dreams and regrets, their shared humanity transcending their different backgrounds and circumstances. Officer Davies found himself opening up to Sarah, sharing his own struggles and vulnerabilities, his voice losing its gruffness in her presence. He spoke of his loneliness, his fear of failure, his desire to make a difference in the world. He spoke of the burden of witnessing so much pain and suffering, the frustration of feeling powerless to change the world. Sarah listened with empathy, her own experiences giving her a unique understanding of his struggles. She offered words of comfort and encouragement, reminding him of the good he was doing, the lives he was touching, the difference he was making. Their shared vulnerability created a bond of trust and understanding, a connection that transcended their different roles and backgrounds. They found solace in each other's company, their conversations a refuge from the harsh realities of their lives. They laughed together, cried together, and shared their hopes and dreams for the future. Officer Davies found himself increasingly drawn to Sarah, her strength and resilience inspiring him, her gentle spirit soothing his weary soul. He admired her courage in the face of adversity, her unwavering love for her daughter, her ability to find beauty and meaning in the midst of suffering. He found himself wanting to protect her, to shield her from the pain and hardship that life had thrown her way. Their relationship remained platonic, a deep and meaningful connection forged in the crucible of shared adversity. But there was an undeniable spark between them, a flicker of something more that hinted at the possibility of love blossoming in the most unexpected of circumstances. One evening, as Officer Davies was finishing his shift, his radio crackled to life, the voice on the other end urgent and filled with concern. It was Maria, her voice trembling with emotion. "Officer Davies," she said, "you need to get to the shelter. Lily's taken a turn for the worse." Officer Davies's heart lurched in his chest, a wave of fear washing over him. He raced to the shelter, his mind filled with images of Lily, her sweet face pale and drawn, her tiny body racked with illness. He burst through the doors of the shelter, his footsteps echoing in the quiet hallways, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He found Lily lying in bed, her face pale and flushed, her eyes closed, her breathing shallow and labored. He sat beside her, his large hand gently stroking her hair, his gruff voice whispering words of comfort and reassurance. "Lily, sweetheart," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "It's Officer Davies. Can you hear me?" Lily's eyes fluttered open, her gaze weak and unfocused, her lips forming a silent "Mama." "Mama's not here right now, sweetheart," Officer Davies said softly, his voice cracking with emotion. "But I'm here. I'll stay with you." He stayed by Lily's side throughout the night, his presence a beacon of comfort in the sterile environment of the hospital room. He monitored her fever, his brow furrowed with concern, his heart aching for her suffering. He sang her lullabies, his gruff voice surprisingly gentle, the melodies filling the room with a sense of peace and reassurance. He told her stories, his words weaving tales of bravery and hope, his voice a lifeline in the darkness. He held her hand, his calloused fingers intertwined with her tiny ones, his touch a source of strength and comfort. He watched as she drifted in and out of sleep, her breathing shallow and labored, her small body fighting against the illness that threatened to consume her. He prayed for her recovery, his words whispered into the silence of the night, his heart filled with a desperate hope. The next morning, Lily's fever broke, the crisis averted, the danger passed. She was still weak, her body exhausted from the battle, but she was eating again, her appetite returning, her spirits lifting. Officer Davies breathed a sigh of relief, his heart filled with gratitude, his eyes brimming with tears. He knew he couldn't leave Lily at the shelter any longer. He had to find a way to reunite her with her mother, to give them the chance to spend their remaining time together, to create memories that would last a lifetime. With renewed determination, Officer Davies approached his superiors with a proposal. He wanted to foster Lily, to take her into his own home, to offer her the love and stability she so desperately needed. He wanted to create a safe haven for her, a place where she could heal and grow, a place where she could be a child again. His superiors were initially hesitant, their faces etched with concern. Fostering a child was a significant responsibility, a commitment that extended far beyond the call of duty. Officer Davies was a single man, his life defined by his job, his apartment a testament to his solitary existence. He had no experience in childcare, no knowledge of the complexities of raising a child. But Officer Davies was persistent, his voice filled with conviction, his eyes shining with determination. He argued that Lily needed stability and love, and that he was willing to provide both. He spoke of the bond he had formed with her, the paternal instinct that had awakened within him, the fierce desire to protect her and provide her with a loving home. He also emphasized the importance of reuniting Lily with her mother, to give them the chance to create some happy memories before it was too late, to allow Sarah to experience the joy of motherhood in the face of her impending death. His superiors were eventually swayed by his compassion and determination, their initial hesitation replaced by admiration and respect. They saw the sincerity in his eyes, the depth of his commitment, the transformative power of his connection with Lily. They agreed to his proposal, granting him temporary custody of Lily, their decision a testament to their faith in his ability to provide her with the love and care she needed. Officer Davies was overjoyed, his heart filled with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. He immediately went to the shelter to pick up Lily, his footsteps light, his spirits soaring. He imagined her reaction, her eyes widening with surprise and delight, her small hand reaching for his, her laughter filling his once quiet apartment. He brought her to his small apartment, a modest but cozy space that had never felt more welcoming. He had spent the previous day preparing for her arrival, transforming his bachelor pad into a child-friendly haven. He had set up a room for her, decorating it with colorful posters and stuffed animals, the once bare walls now adorned with images of princesses and fairies. Lily was initially hesitant, her eyes wide with uncertainty, her small body tense with apprehension. But Officer Davies's gentle nature and patient demeanor soon won her over. He showed her around the apartment, his voice soft and reassuring, his large hand gently guiding her through the unfamiliar space. She began to explore her new home, her eyes widening with curiosity and wonder, her laughter echoing through the rooms, chasing away the shadows of loneliness and fear. Officer Davies also arranged for Sarah to move into his apartment, his generosity extending beyond Lily to encompass her ailing mother. He knew that Sarah needed a safe and comfortable place to recover, a place where she could be close to her daughter, a place where she could find some peace in her final days. He helped Sarah move her meager belongings into his spare room, his strong arms carrying her boxes and furniture, his gentle touch offering comfort and support. He transformed the room into a sanctuary for her, adding soft blankets, comfortable pillows, and a vase filled with fresh flowers. Sarah was overwhelmed by Officer Davies's generosity, her eyes filled with tears of gratitude. She couldn't believe that a stranger would open his home and his heart to her and her daughter, offering them shelter and support in their time of need. She expressed her gratitude with heartfelt words and a gentle touch, her spirit lifted by his kindness. The arrangement was not without its challenges, the dynamics of their new living situation testing their patience and resilience. Officer Davies had to adjust to the demands of childcare, juggling his work schedule with Lily's needs, his days now filled with school runs, bedtime stories, and playground adventures. He learned to braid hair, decipher childish drawings, and navigate the world of cartoons and fairy tales. Sarah struggled with her illness, her health deteriorating with each passing day, her body growing weaker, her energy waning. But she found comfort in being close to her daughter, in watching her thrive under Officer Davies's care, in knowing that Lily would be loved and protected even after she was gone. But through it all, they found strength in each other, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. Officer Davies provided stability and support, his presence a source of comfort and reassurance. Sarah and Lily brought love and laughter into his life, filling his once empty apartment with warmth and joy. They shared meals together, their laughter echoing through the small space, their conversations filled with stories and dreams. They created a family, a bond forged in adversity, a testament to the enduring power of human connection. One evening, as Officer Davies was tucking Lily into bed, her small body nestled amongst the colorful blankets, her eyes heavy with sleep, She looked up at him with her big, innocent eyes, her gaze filled with a question that had been brewing in her young mind. "Officer Davies?" she asked, her voice soft and hesitant. "Are you my daddy now?" Officer Davies's heart melted, a wave of tenderness washing over him. He had never considered himself a father figure, his life defined by his job, his identity shaped by his role as a protector and enforcer of the law. But in that moment, looking into Lily's eyes, he realized that he had become something more, a father figure to this little girl who had captured his heart. "I'm not your daddy, sweetheart," he said softly, his voice thick with emotion. "But I love you very much, and I'll always be here for you." Lily smiled, her eyes filled with trust and affection, her small hand reaching out to touch his cheek. "I love you too, Officer Davies," she said, her voice filled with a love that transcended blood ties and legal definitions. That night, as Officer Davies lay in bed, Lily's words echoing in his mind, he made a decision. He would officially adopt Lily, giving her a permanent home, a loving family, a future filled with hope and opportunity. He would become her father, not by blood, but by choice, by love, by the unbreakable bond they had forged. He began the adoption process, navigating the legal complexities with the help of Maria and his colleagues, their support and guidance a testament to their friendship and shared commitment to Lily's well-being. He filled out forms, attended meetings, and underwent background checks, his determination unwavering, his heart filled with anticipation. He also continued to care for Sarah, ensuring that she received the best possible medical care and emotional support. He accompanied her to doctor's appointments, sat by her bedside during her treatments, and offered her a listening ear and a comforting presence. He watched as her health continued to decline, her body growing weaker, her spirit fading, but her love for Lily burning bright. Sarah found comfort in knowing that Lily was in good hands, that she would be loved and cared for even after she was gone. She spent her remaining days surrounded by love, her heart filled with gratitude for Officer Davies's kindness, her spirit finding peace in the knowledge that her daughter would have a bright future. One day, as winter's icy grip loosened its hold on the city, Sarah peacefully passed away in her sleep, her hand clasped in Officer Davies's, her eyes filled with gratitude and love. Officer Davies mourned her loss, his heart heavy with grief, but he also celebrated her life, her strength, her unwavering love for her daughter. He knew that she would always be a part of their family, her spirit living on in Lily's laughter and in the memories they had created together. Officer Davies's experience with Lily and Sarah transformed him in ways he had never imagined. He had started as a hardened police officer, his compassion masked by cynicism and a gruff exterior, his heart shielded from the pain and suffering he witnessed daily. But through his interactions with Lily and Sarah, he rediscovered the empathy and kindness that had always been within him, the embers of compassion fanned into a flame by their love and resilience. He learned the true meaning of love and responsibility, the power of human connection to heal and transform. He discovered the depths of his own capacity for love, the fierce protectiveness he felt for Lily, the tenderness he felt for Sarah. He learned the meaning of sacrifice, putting the needs of others before his own, his heart expanding to encompass a family he had never expected to have. He also gained a new perspective on his job, his role as a police officer taking on a new meaning. He realized that his job was not just about enforcing the law, but also about protecting the vulnerable and helping those in need. He saw the interconnectedness of his community, the way poverty, addiction, and neglect fueled the cycle of crime and violence. He understood that true justice required more than just arrests and convictions. It required compassion, understanding, and a commitment to addressing the root causes of social problems. He became more involved in community outreach programs, his gruff exterior softening as he interacted with at-risk youth and families. He worked with schools, shelters, and community centers, offering guidance, support, and a listening ear. He used his position to advocate for social justice and equality, his voice rising in defense of those who had no voice. He became a beacon of hope in his community, a symbol of the power of compassion and the transformative potential of human connection. Lily's presence in his life brought joy and laughter into his once solitary existence, her laughter echoing through his apartment like music, her smile chasing away the shadows of loneliness. He found fulfillment in being a father figure to her, in nurturing her growth and development, in watching her blossom into a happy and confident child. He read her bedtime stories, taught her to ride a bike, and cheered her on at her school plays, his heart swelling with pride and love. He also cherished the memories he had created with Sarah, the moments of shared laughter and quiet understanding, the bond they had forged in the face of adversity. He mourned her loss, his heart heavy with grief, but he also celebrated her life, her strength, her unwavering love for her daughter. He knew that she would always be a part of their family, her spirit living on in Lily's laughter and in the memories they had created together. The story of Officer Davies, Lily, and Sarah is a testament to the power of human compassion and the transformative potential of love. It highlights the importance of empathy, selflessness, and the willingness to open one's heart to others, even in the face of adversity and despair. It is a story of hope, resilience, and the enduring power of the human spirit. Officer Davies's journey from a hardened police officer to a loving father figure underscores the idea that even in the face of adversity and despair, human kindness can prevail. It shows that even those who have been hardened by life's experiences, who have witnessed the darkest corners of human nature, can rediscover their compassion and make a positive impact on the world. It reminds us that we all have the capacity for love and kindness, and that even small acts of compassion can make a big difference in the lives of others. Lily's resilience and Sarah's unwavering love serve as a reminder of the strength of the human spirit, the ability to find hope and connection even in the most difficult circumstances. Lily, abandoned and alone, found love and security in the arms of a stranger. Sarah, facing her own mortality, found peace and comfort in the knowledge that her daughter would be cared for. Their story reminds us that even in the face of overwhelming odds, the human spirit can endure, that love can transcend even the darkest of times. Their story is a beacon of light in a world that often seems dark and unforgiving. It reminds us that even small acts of kindness can make a big difference, that love and compassion can heal even the deepest wounds. It encourages us to look beyond our own experiences, to reach out to those in need, to offer a helping hand and a compassionate heart. The story of Officer Davies, Lily, and Sarah is a story of transformation, redemption, and the enduring power of love. It is a story that reminds us that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope, that even in the face of despair, there is always the possibility of love and connection. It is a story that inspires us to be better, to do better, and to believe in the transformative power of human compassion.